Okay, so thank you all for joining us today on a Saturday morning on a beautiful day. It's finally feeling like summer here in Maryland. I know not all of us who are here today might be from Maryland, but it's been cold and then warm and then cold and then warm. And now it feels like summer. It's like 80 degrees outside today. So thank you all for taking an hour out of your day to join us for this information session. My name is Rebecca Miner. I am the program coordinator for both the ASL and the interpreting program here at the Community College of Baltimore County. The acronym for that is CCBC, and we are located in Catonsville, Maryland. I have my colleague here with me today, Ricky Perry. Ricky, can you introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Ricky Perry, and I am one of the deaf professors here in the ASL program. Welcome. And I hope you all end up joining us.
So Ricky and I introduced ourselves. I have been teaching in interpreting and ASL linguistics for quite a while. I started teaching in 2006. Ricky, how long have you been teaching ASL?
Oh, wow. For about since 1999. So around 23 years now.
Yeah. So I started here.
It's like, where does the time go?
Absolutely. I started here teaching at CCBC as a part-time instructor in 2012, I think. And then I became full-time in 2013. And I have been the program coordinator for the last 6 years. In that time, our program has really changed a lot. We offer two programs, one in ASL, one in interpreting. And in today's presentation, we're going to give you some of that information so you can learn a little more about our program.
All right. Can everyone see the screen still? Maryland has a large and thriving deaf community, and some of the reasons being because of Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. that's very local to us. And we also have two deaf schools in the state, Maryland School for the Deaf. We have the smaller campus in Columbia, and then we have a larger campus that is over in Frederick. And also, if you look at the Baltimore area, it has an enormous deaf community there, as well as in Frederick and Washington, D.C. So you can really see that there's a large deaf community in Maryland. And deaf people in the community can really have a wide span of careers and jobs. They can take any kind of profession. So if your goal is, maybe your goal is to be a future interpreter and you're envisioning what kind of work that would be like working with deaf folks, you know, that could be, or maybe your goal is not to be an interpreter, but just to work in a career where you're interfacing with the deaf community. You know, then you'll interact with people who are doing their various jobs in the community.
So the information on this slide is taken from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. So this shows a little bit of the job outlook if you want to become a sign language interpreter. Something to keep in mind is that when you look at labor and statistics data, sign language interpreters are usually lumped in with spoken language interpreters, Spanish interpreters, or French interpreters working in a variety of settings. So sometimes there can be a wide variation in what the pay median is. The bottom line is interpreters, especially sign language interpreters, are in extremely high demand. Sign language interpreters are a guaranteed accommodation for deaf people per the Americans with Disabilities Act. So hospitals, schools, colleges, businesses, all are required by law to provide sign language interpreting as access to their consumers. How much you are paid and how much you're going to earn as an interpreter is going to vary depending on where you live. In anytime you're closer to a city, so if you're in Maryland and you're closer to Baltimore, or if you're near the DC area, the pay rate tends to be a little higher. Whereas if you're farther out into a more rural area, the pay rate is a little lower. However, no matter which way, wherever you're working, it's a good job with flexible hours and usually pretty good pay. And it's in extremely high demand. So where should you go to learn to become an interpreter? Come to CCBC. We have been training interpreters since 1983 here in our program. We've recently been restructured into a dual degree program. So we have 2 degree options that you get from us, and the students who go through our program earn both degrees. First, you get a degree in American Sign Language, and you spend that time when working on that degree in honing your language skills and becoming fluent in ASL. Once you've completed that degree and you've reached a certain level of proficiency, then you can test to be accepted into our interpreting program. The interpreting program is selective admissions, and you do have to earn a certain level of fluency on a fluency exam to be able to continue on in the interpreting program. If you come to our program and earn both of our degrees, you can fast track your way to a bachelor's degree. We have a couple articulation agreements where you can earn a bachelor's degree either while you're here or in the year after you finish with us. And I'll have another slide where I'll talk about that. We also have scholarship funding available. Our program is one of the recipients of the largest scholarship endowment from a private donor ever in our college's history. And that endowment came directly from the deaf community. And that's why if you look on our website, you'll see that our official name is the A. Eugene and Bernice Hoper ASL Interpreting Program, because we are named directly after our scholarship endowment. That scholarship funding is available for students in ASL 4 and above. So ASL 1 and 2 are often non-majors, majors and non-majors, because even if you are majoring in nursing or some other program, you can still take ASL 1 and 2 as your language credits. And then ASL 3 is where we really start to see who's going to stick with it and who's going to stick with it and be an ASL and interpreting major. So now I'll let Ricky tell you a little bit about the ASL curriculum.
All right, are you all ready? Are you ready to join the ASL program and learn ASL? Awesome, we are so thrilled for that. All right, so before I go into a little bit more about the ASL program, so are you familiar with the fact that in the deaf community, so when you go into the deaf community, you have to keep in mind that deaf people are not all the same. There's a large amount of variation within the community. People have various backgrounds with which they learn sign language. It could be from family, it could be from school, or a variety of other backgrounds. And so as a result, the signing is not going to be the exact same when you meet a person. So when you meet a deaf person, you have to know that their signing style is going to be different than any other person. You have a wide variety ranging from someone who is stronger in English signing or stronger in ASL. Myself, my background is strong ASL. Because of my family, I'm a 4th generation deaf person. That means that my family has been deaf for 4 generations. I also went to a school for the deaf. And so there's going to be a large variety in people's signing styles and the way that they sign. So if your goal is to be an interpreter in the future and you're interpreting the community, you will encounter that large variation. And so in our program, we emphasize ASL because you need to develop that skill set and that strength and fluency in ASL. And then in the future, as you're working in various professions, you will then learn that skill to code switch and be able to conform to a variety of English or ASL range. Does that make sense for everybody? All right, so in the ASL program, you start with ASL 1 and it goes up to ASL 5. And for our ASL classes, we use True Way ASL, or TWA is the acronym. And all of that is done online so that you don't have to purchase a physical book. So for a while, we were using a popular program called Signing Naturally. And that is where, that was very popular with a variety of colleges and institutions in our area. That was a great, curriculum. And then recently we have transferred to TrueWay ASL. And that is used for ASL 1 through 5. We also have a fingerspelling and numbers class. And when you go into ASL 4 and up, you would qualify to take the fingerspelling and numbers course. And throughout these courses, we emphasize that you have at least a basic exposure to the deaf community and have more exposures because immersion is really important for language acquisition. And we also stress cultural competency throughout your classes, all of the ASL classes and the fingerspelling and numbers classes. So if you go through ASL 1, 2, and 3, we require students to go out into the deaf community for deaf events. And the deaf events, you're able to socialize with deaf people from different backgrounds. So those are very important. And then at ASL 4 and 5, we have what is called service learning. And you have a mandatory 10 hours in that class where a student would go out into the community and they would support deaf people. So that would be, deaf organizations. And so that benefits the deaf community. It also benefits you because you're learning more about the community and have greater language acquisition. So both the faculty and adjunct faculty are all deaf in the program, in the part of the program where you're going to be learning ASL. So you're going to benefit from having all deaf professors. I'm so thrilled for you all. And if you take a look at the various careers that are listed on this slide, if you start in our ASL program and you realize that you don't want to be an interpreter, there are additional skill sets that knowing ASL will greatly benefit yourself and the community. So Becca's going to go over some of those various careers where you can work with deaf people.
Yeah, so on this slide, you can see there's a variety of different ways that you can work using your ASL skills, different settings where you can work. And outside of these settings, you might find yourself working side by side with deaf people in any job. Maybe you work at a dentist's office and you work side by side with a deaf dentist. So you can use those language skills in a variety of different settings. However, if you decide that your goal is to become an interpreter, then you're going to need a little extra training after you've mastered the language skill. It's important to emphasize that knowing 2 languages doesn't make you an interpreter. So first step is mastering your second language. So that's why first you go through our ASL program, you become fluent in ASL, then you learn the process of interpreting and translation. So interpreting is a lot different than knowing one language. It is a cognitive task where you transfer the messages from one language to another in real time while taking into account the speaker's tone and attitude and cultural norms of each culture. It's actually a very complex cognitive task. You have to be able to listen to one language and produce a different language at the same time. So understanding that English and American Sign Language have completely different grammatical structures. So that can be very difficult for you to balance your mental energy in focusing on taking in one language and expressing a different language at the same time simultaneously, like you see our interpreter doing right now. I'll take a minute to mention that I'm very proud to say that both of the interpreters that are here today are graduates of our program. Yay. So it takes some serious mental muscle to be able to balance and simultaneously be focusing on 2 languages at once. And that's what we teach you in the interpreting program. You have to, while balancing the two languages, while taking one in and expressing with the other, you have to be paying attention to cultural norms, the way that in the different cultures we might hedge or say something with an idiom, or say something in like a figurative language sort of way. For example, to say that someone died, we might say the person passed. And in English, by saying passed away instead of died, we are softening the language and making it a little more sensitive. So we're showing something with the word choice that we use. And interpreters have to be listening for that constantly. So it's not as easy as, oh, it's raining cats and dogs. Obviously, that's an idiom, so I'm going to translate it. It's much more complicated than that, because we use single word choices which show our tone and intention when we talk. And likewise, the same thing happens in ASL, and we have to be able to translate that back into English with the correct meaning and intention. So that's what we really get into in the interpreting program and the interpreting classes, looking at those linguistic idiosyncrasies of both languages. What's really great about interpreting is you can work anywhere. Anywhere deaf people go, you can go and work as an interpreter. So maybe you like education. You could work with deaf kids in the K through 12 setting. You could work with deaf college students in post-secondary. Maybe you really like performing arts, and some of you guys have probably seen some of the videos on YouTube of interpreters interpreting at concerts and things. You can interpret at concerts and plays and different, performing arts settings. You can interpret in medical settings. I mean, it's really, the world is your oyster when you're an interpreter. You can choose to go where you are comfortable going. You can work from home like we all are doing today. All of us are at home with our cameras on. Before I became a full-time educator, I worked as an interpreter in the DC area. My typical day would be a college class in the morning, maybe a doctor's appointment in the afternoon. And then in the evening, I was over at Verizon Center interpreting for Britney Spears. Just really interesting, keeping it, all different things, always learning. I spent 2 years interpreting for the same college student through his master's degree in mechanical engineering. I'm a big nerd. I'm a constant learner. And so by being with the same deaf student for those 2 years through his master's degree, I went right along. I got all the textbooks with him. I studied, the teacher's PowerPoints to prepare to be able to interpret the lectures appropriately. And I learned so much. My husband's an engineer, and now I feel like I can understand him a little bit better when he talks about his work. I am by no means a mechanical engineer. I didn't have to take any of the exams the deaf student did, but that just gives you an insight into like how neat it is. If you are a constant learner, you can work in education or work in post-secondary and learn right along with the student. Before I had children, I worked for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, Carnival Cruise Lines, and Holland America. And I got to see the world, all because I was interpreting for deaf people who were going on these trips. I mean, it really is such an awesome career. At the same time, I have to say that as exciting and awesome as it is a very serious career. It can go from a really fun interpreting for, a kid's camp, Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or something, to an emergency situation really quickly. And all of a sudden you find yourself interpreting in a medical situation. Or interpreters also see all of the oppression and discrimination that deaf people go through. And that can be really, that can lay really heavy on your heart. You might be the interpreter interpreting for the deaf person's job interview, that if they don't get that interview, if they don't get that job, that's going to change their life. Or for their meeting with a supervisor for a promotion. You might be that interpreter in the hospital telling the deaf mom, we're sorry you lost the baby. So I always want to make sure that I mention the really serious high-risk moments that we find ourselves in as interpreters. We experience vicarious trauma because we are so connected to the lives of our deaf consumers. So it's important to remember that it's not all fun. It's not all interpreting for Britney Spears and cruises. It's also very serious. And it takes a very mature person to be able to draw that line And while doing this complicated task of interpreting, also being aware of how your presence in the situation impacts the lives of the people that are there. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about the interpreting curriculum. Ricky explained in your first 2 years, you would go through our ASL curriculum, which is the ASL 1 through 5, and learning, focusing specifically on your language skills. After completing that curriculum or screening out, if you already have some language skills, you can be screened out of that program, or you can be screened into a certain level of that program. Once you get past ASL 5, you would start our interpreting program. Our interpreting program, semester 1, everyone is able to start in semester 1. It's at the end of semester 1 that the selective admissions process starts. So semester 1 includes what I always say is like an ASL level 6 class. It's an advanced ASL class called Advanced ASL Grammar. So it's one more ASL class to really hone in on your grammar skills for your ASL. And then we also have you take pre-interpreting skills in that semester. Pre-interpreting skills is a cognitive processing class. So remember how I told you one of the hardest parts of learning to interpret is not the language, but it's actually balancing that cognitive process, being able to multitask and focus on 2 different things at once. That's what you learn in our pre-interpreting skills class. So you take those 2 classes, and at the end of that semester, you are required to take the ASL proficiency exam. That is a language fluency exam that is provided through Gallaudet University. On that test, you can score a 0 through a 5. We require a minimum of a 2 to move on in our interpreting program. That ASL level 6 class, the it's called Advanced Conversational ASL, the ASL Grammar class. In that class, the midterm and final are a mock ASL proficiency exam. So we help you prepare for taking that test in that class if you need those kind of extra language polishing. After you obtain your ASL PI, ASL Proficiency Exam 2, then you move into our 5 interpreting skills classes. That takes about 3 semesters, those 5 courses. Those include consecutive interpreting, simultaneous interpreting, interactive interpreting, and transliterating. You work through our ASL skills courses, and during that time, in those 3 semesters, when you're working on the skills-based interpreting courses, we also have you doing what we call experiential learning. Experiential learning means that you have to interpret on campus at campus-wide events under the supervision of your instructors. So it's very low risk. It's like the faculty ice cream social and the college's tribute to 9/11 and the different little campus-wide opportunities that come up during the semester. And so students sign up for their chance to do that. And it gets you a chance to take what you're learning in the classroom and really apply it to like a real life interpreting situation in a very controlled, low risk environment. So you get some of that experience as you work through your interpreting classes. And then the very last class is the practicum internship. Your practicum is 200 hours, and it's interpreting out in the community. So not on campus anymore, not controlled on campus, but out with an interpreting agency under the supervision of a mentor interpreter. In our past 5 years, we have about a 95% job placement rate of students who successfully complete the program and successfully complete their internship. It is very, very likely that students are hired by their internship site at the end of their program. So we have a really good record of helping you transition from school to work. Anybody have questions? To make sure, because I can't see the chat. Oh, now I can see the chat. No questions? And we will open it up at the end too for any questions you guys have. Give you a minute to just look at that screen. So how do you get your bachelor's degree? Because we are a community college and you're getting 2 degrees from us, you're going to have just over 90 credits at the conclusion of getting an Associate of Arts in ASL and an Associate of Applied Science in Interpreting. A bachelor's degree is 120 credits. And it's important that a bachelor's degree is your end goal if you want to become an interpreter, because in order to become nationally certified through the National Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, you have to hold either a bachelor's degree or the equivalency of 120 credits. So we have 3 articulation plans for our students. When you get through your ASL program, through your interpreting program, now you've got about 90 credits, you can finish your bachelor's degree at any one of our 3 partner schools. And they will take and transfer in all 90 credits, and you just complete 30 credits with them to finish your bachelor's degree. As you start going through our program, like when you're in the interpreting program and you're getting into the end, I bring you all in for information sessions. I have you meet with the representatives from the different schools to help you make a choice on how you'll continue for your bachelor's degree. Each of the 3 bachelor options are a little bit different. The most flexible of the 3 is Siena Heights. That's the one that's in the middle. Siena Heights actually allows you to co-enroll with them during your last 2 years with us. So if you don't have any college credits, what that would look like is your first 2 years is in the ASL program, ASL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all your gen eds, English, math, science, to get that degree. Your second 2 years, you're in the interpreting program, but you've already done your gen eds. So you're really only part-time with us, taking about 2 to 3 classes a semester in interpreting. And Siena allows you to co-enroll so that when you finish that interpreting degree, you've also finished their bachelor's degree. All of the courses are online. Stevenson and William Woods prefer that you finish completely with us and then do their work. So my alumni that I see going down that path will finish completely with us and start working as interpreters. Depending on the state you are in, you can start working as an interpreter before you have that national certification. And I encourage you to, because you need to gain a little more experience in the field before you take the test to become nationally certified. So students will graduate from us, start working part-time as interpreters, and then attend either Stevenson or William Woods part-time. Each of the programs are a little bit different. And again, when you're in our program and you're a little closer to the end goal here, we will bring you in to talk to each of the programs about what classes they offer. But it's important that I mention it here because in the end, you can fast track your way to a bachelor's degree. And really, you're only paying the university price for 1/4 of your bachelor's degree because you're doing the first 90 credits here with us at CCBC at the community college price, and then your last 30 credits at the university. So it's a fast track as well as a money saver. Some of you who've been looking through our program information, either on our website or something that I may have emailed to you, you'll see that we have 3 degree options. So if you have no previous college credits, the best track for you to follow is to get both degrees, the AA in ASL, the AAS in interpreter prep, and then move on for your bachelor's degree. However, we understand that some of you maybe already have a degree. Maybe you already have a bachelor's or even something higher than a bachelor's. If that is you, you can still come in for your language skills under our AA and Deaf Culture degree and just take the classes that you need. You don't have to retake math, science, English. You just take your sign language classes that you need. And then when you move on into the interpreting program, you would go for our certificate instead of our associate's degree. And all that really is the same exact program, except without the gen eds. So that on your resume, you would show, oh, I already have a bachelor's degree in psychology or whatever your previous degree is in, and then I've earned an industry credential certificate in interpreter training. And when you start with us, I talk you through that and I help you pick your major. CCBC is offering special rates for online out-of-state students. So if you are in-state in Maryland and in Baltimore County, you get the in-county Baltimore County rate. If you are in Maryland and out of county, out of Baltimore County, then you get the out-of-county rate. The out-of-county rate is $241 per credit. If you are out of state and taking courses online, then you get $1 over out-of-county rate, so $242 per credit. That is a great price compared to what you would normally be paying as an out-of-state student. So if you are going to be a fully online student with us and you are out of state, you want to make sure that you're communicating with the bursar's office and double checking your bill to make sure that you're getting that special rate for online students. I'm going to let Ricky talk just a little bit about what the online classes look like.
So the ASL interpreting teachers were discussing together ideas of developing online courses and what that would look like. And over the last 2 years with the onset of COVID, CCBC has really been pushing us to move in the direction of online courses. And we have set about that process and made a lot of changes. And really my technical skills have really improved over that time. Now, if you are in a face-to-face class, an in-person class, or if you are doing a asynchronous class online, then the content of the course is going to be the same. The only difference is the formatting. So if you're in a face-to-face class or a remote class, then they are going to have weekly classes with set times that you would meet. And the courses, all the classes going to meet together at that class time and have, what a traditional college format looks like. So that would either be in person or on Zoom, just like we're doing now. And so you have that as an option. As opposed to that, you have asynchronous courses, and that is where there is no set meeting time for students to come together at one point. And CCBC has the LMS, the Learning Management System. And under that, we have Brightspace. And that is going to be where you're going to go to access all of your course information. That is where you're going to see your weekly modules and your weekly directions for that week. And it also has a course guide to what the course process looks like. So you could go in and read what the course description for the various weeks and what the requirements and what the homework is going to be for those weeks. And you can also watch some of the videos that are pre-recorded that are there for your benefit. And you can also hit do activities, and those are going to be under the course modules, and then you can hit submit. And so all of that is going to be on the weekly course content. And if you have an asynchronous class, then there are not classes that are meeting virtually or in person. So you will still have lectures, and there will be information about those courses weekly. Some of them may be 10 minutes, some of them may be 15 minutes, and there will be a pre-recorded description of what you should do that week. And so in regards to the differences, if you're meeting in person or virtually, then we have GoReact. And there are assignments that you can submit in GoReact for your courses. So whether you're meeting face-to-face or virtually, you're going to use GoReact a bit less because you have the class meeting and they can see each other. You can practice simultaneously. And you're able to practice those vital functions. And that would be in a synchronous manner. If you're meeting asynchronously, then it's going to be various times that you're working on the courses. And so students are going to have to find different ways to engage, and you're going to engage with the content with GoReact because you're not going to be meeting at the same time. And so on all of your GoReact videos, when you submit homework, you will get feedback on that homework. So it's important to stay connected with your teacher in both synchronous and asynchronous classes. And so that's a little bit about the courses that we offer. All right.
Just to reiterate, in the image that you can see on the slide right now, the picture that's to the left is an example of what GoReact looks like. GoReact is our online video lab software. So in GoReact, you can record yourself. So you see a student all the way to the far left, he recorded himself signing whatever the assignment was. Maybe the assignment was introduce yourself. So he's there, he's signing into the camera, introducing himself. It's recorded, it's posted to the video lab, GoReact. And then just to the right of that, you see where it says Ricky Perry, and it's got a little video of Ricky. That's where Ricky went in and graded the assignment and then recorded himself giving feedback like, oh, hey, turn this sign this way. You signed this sign wrong. This might be what he's saying there. When you as the student go back into GoReact to see the feedback, all of those little video segments that the deaf teacher records are time coded and attached to what part of your video the teacher was watching when they gave the feedback. So we use that tool, GoReact, in all of our courses in ASL and in interpreting. If you are in an asynchronous online course, that's a course that does not meet. It's up to you to have the self-discipline and the time management skills to log in every week and do all of the assignments every week. Then the way that you're engaging with your instructor is through GoReact. That's how you're going to see each other and other students too. There's assignments in GoReact where you might record yourself signing something and ask a question, and then the next student to sign on is supposed to answer the question, and you watch the conversation kind of unfold that way. That's how you engage. If you're in a face-to-face or a remote course that does meet weekly, and it does still use GoReact for most major assignments, but it has in-class discourse practice because you're face-to-face. So you can practice having those kind of conversations with your peers in class, whereas in an asynchronous, you have more of that set up through GoReact. So that's kind of clarifying the difference between the two. Every college you go to might use different terminology to describe what they offer. Here at CCBC, the word online means that it's an asynchronous course. It does not meet. If we use the word remote, that means that it meets weekly in an online format, either Zoom or Teams. For our program, for ASL and interpreting, it's always on Zoom. And then we have on-site or face-to-face courses. So this last slide just has some of my contact information. I'm sure I've also emailed all of you the link to this so you can see the contact information there, and all the links to our program page and our social media can be found in my signature line in any email that you got from me. So I'm just going to stop sharing now and open it up for questions. Does anybody have questions for me and Ricky? Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Thank you, Dr. Mine. I have a question. So are the courses, two questions, are the courses in the evening? I currently teach in a school district in Delaware, so they're in the evening?
So it depends on which program you're in. We have a track for on-site and then a track for online or remote. For our online and remote courses, we do typically offer them in the afternoons and evenings.
Okay. And if you are, if you've already, I heard you say if you already have earned some degrees and, you know, for example, postgraduate degrees, you would go for that certification, interpreter certificate, correct?
Yep.
And then you would still have to test to see if you can enter into the interpreter program.
That's right. So if you, I'm just giving the interpreter a minute to catch up with me. If you are coming to us and you already have degrees, the first step is to make sure that you're fluent in ASL. So some students come to us and they know some ASL, some students come and they are totally fluent. We ask that you just sit down for 15, 20 minutes with one of our teachers, and we can arrange that on Zoom for a screening. And the ASL teacher will have a little conversation with you. They might show you a few slides and ask a few questions. They're just kind of checking how much vocabulary you have and how well you use the language. At that point, they will either say, you know what, you really should start in like ASL level 4 or 5, or they might say, you're good to go, move into the interpreting program. And at that point, we have a conversation of whether you go right into taking that ASL proficiency test at Gallaudet, because that's the entry to the interpreting program. Or if you're not 100% sure, then we put you in that ASL level 6, which is a grammar honing class. And the teacher will work with you to make sure you're ready to take the ASLPI.
Okay.
That ASLPI test is, I think, $165 to take at Gallaudet. So we don't want to send you off to take it until we've given you some feedback to say, yeah, you're probably ready, go take it. Because we don't want you to spend that money if you're not ready for it.
Okay, last question. Sorry, other students here. Last question. Is there I know there, we have some colleagues that are down at Gallaudet. They went down last week, I think, for an ASL courses. Is there a master's program in either ASL, becoming an ASL instructor, in case you're not necessarily wanting to go through the interpreter track?
Not here at CCBC.
Okay. Gotcha.
So if you are looking for a program in Maryland, McDaniel College has
Yeah.
a master's track for deaf ed,
Mhm.
and I'm sure Gallaudet has a program as well.
Yeah, I have my degree in deaf education and my master's in early on in elementary, but I was just curious about that. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Who else has questions for me? Go ahead.
I kind of have a question. Oh, sorry. Oh, whoever can go first. I don't know if somebody else was there.
You can go first.
Johan? Okay, go ahead, Liz.
Oh, okay. I'll try to make this really quick. What if you already have an associate's degree? When do you need to like transfer all of your credits and everything to let the school know? Like, kind of what's the order of operations for that? Like, if you already have a bachelor's degree or an associate's, do you need to like let them know up front before you start signing up for classes and everything? Yeah, I hope that was clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's good practice for as soon as you become a student with us, send us official transcripts of everything.
Okay.
And the reason for that is several of our classes have English 101 or college ready English as a prerequisite.
I see.
And if CCBC's like computer system doesn't know that you already have a bachelor's degree and you've already taken college level English, then it'll constantly block you when you go to register
I
for
see.
classes.
Okay. So get the transcripts.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I always say, and I work with each of you one-on-one, our classes do fill up very quickly. So if you're trying to get in for the next semester and you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the transcripts to come through, I will help you register for your first semester and I will jump over the prerequisites for you. But then before the next semester, let's make sure we get your transcripts in so that any of those holds for English or math come off your transcript. Because once that's in our system, then the system knows, oh, this person's already checked off English 101 and already checked off math.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a good question. Johan?
Hi, Dr. Miner. It's actually Johan, actually.
Sorry.
It's all right. I get it all the time. So my question is that do we need to get like both degrees, like both the AA and deaf culture degree and the interpreting program degree? But
if you do not already hold a bachelor's degree, I would strongly suggest getting both because then that allows you to fast track for your bachelor's degree.
okay.
However, say you come to us and you screen into ASL 5 and all you need is like ASL 5 and then the intro classes, intro to interpreting, linguistics, and deaf culture, and you knock all of those out in a semester, you can still move right into the interpreting program and come back later to finish the extra gen ed credits for the ASL program. We want you to keep moving with your skills and then we'll figure out the gen eds after the fact. So the typical progression is for students to first finish the ASL degree, then finish the interpreting degree. But I do have some students who screen right into the interpreting degree and come back later to get the ASL degree. So imagine if you are maybe a CODA and you come to us and you already are fluent in sign language and you screen right into our interpreting program, then you go through the interpreting program, finish that program, come back to the ASL program, and you get credit for prior learning for all of your ASL courses because you tested out of them, and then you finish the couple extra English and math. The ASL degree is an AA, an Associate of Arts, which means it has 2 Englishes, 2 sciences, and a health and wellness course. The interpreting program is an AAS, an Associate of Applied Science. That has 1 science, 1 English, and I don't think it has the health class, or it has the health, but not the technology. So there's like 3 gen ed differences between the 2. So if you're the type of student that comes right into interpreting, we can still help you get both degrees and give you credit for prior learning for those language skills.
Okay. Because I took ASL 101 this semester and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed using TrueWays and Go React. I had no technical issues at all.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, there is, some students struggle a little with the technology because it is a lot of platforms. The first platform is our learning management system, Brightspace. That's where all of your course information is laid out. And then you're going to go into TrueWay, which is a different platform because it's an online textbook. So instead of looking at pictures of how to sign certain things, everything is video clips. And it's really, really great. It's super interactive. And you can watch the videos. Everything has a transcript. And then at the end of those assigned videos to watch for that week, there's a quiz. And it's all built right into the textbook where you watch a video and you answer a multiple choice question and it pops back out. Did you understand what you just watched?
Yeah.
And so that's a different platform. And then the third platform is Go React. And that's where you would record yourself showing what you can do. So True Way is where you hone your receptive skills, what you can see and understand. And Go React is where you show us what you can do, show us your expressive skills. So there is quite a bit of technology there. So I'm glad to hear, Johan, that you were able to navigate that technology.
And I'm really proud about, I don't know how to say her last name, but then is it Professor Gerhardt?
Uh-huh.
She,
Yeah.
I really enjoy her. Like, she really helped me out throughout the semester.
So I was just telling Ricky, you're in Joanna's class, Joanna Gerhardt. Yeah, she's a great, great teacher. Rebecca's saying maybe we should give her a raise. We'll see what we can do. Anybody else have questions about our program? Go ahead, Rebecca.
I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm calling in rather than being on Zoom.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm also in Delaware, and I was curious about, and I apologize if this is already answered and maybe a slide I can't see. If somebody were to take, if somebody already has a degree but comes in to do this program and did one class at a time, is there an approximate time frame that you would be looking at? Excuse me, like would this be 3 years, do you think, if an individual with no experience or education were to take one class at a time?
Sure. So it depends on the student and what your needs are. If we're not talking about your general education classes, like the math, the science, the English, all those things you need to complete the degree. If we're only talking about ASL 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the interpreting courses, I recommend 2 courses a semester. And if it's 2 courses a semester, it's about 4 years from start to finish, from ASL 1 all the way to the end of the interpreting program. It's about 4 or 4.5 years. For most students, that's not the story, because most students are coming in somewhere else along that timeline. So if you're coming in, you already know sign language. Let's say you already come in totally fluent in sign language and you jump right over the ASL program and go straight into the interpreting program. It is 2.5 years. So it's 5 semesters part-time with 2 classes a semester. If you do 1 class a semester, then obviously that's going to take you longer. And it would probably take you 3 years, 3.5 years if you push it out that far. Several of the classes are prerequisited to each other. So you cannot take this class until you have taken that class. And so like for interpreting, you cannot go to simultaneous interpreting until you have passed consecutive interpreting. And if you are in an online cohort, consecutive interpreting is only offered remote in the fall. So if you don't take it this fall, you have to wait a whole year till next fall to take it. So it can kind of push your timeline out farther. However, I always tell students, time is going to pass one way or another. Keep working towards your goal. Keep working towards your goal, because eventually you're going to get there. So sit down one-on-one with me. Let's talk about your situation, and I'll help you map out how long it would take and what semester you would take things in, keeping in mind when things are offered online and when they're only offered face-to-face.
Okay, gotcha. That explains a lot. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Rebecca asked a question as well, and she asked about summer courses. So we do offer ASL 1 and 2 every summer. Ricky, can you talk a little bit about the summer courses?
Absolutely. So we offer ASL 1 and 2 over the summer. And those are remote courses. And we also have asynchronous courses for ASL 1, and those are going to be 10 weeks. And I teach the asynchronous course. For the remote class, it's going to be 7 weeks. And we have 2 sections for that course for ASL 1 and 2. And the remote course is going to be 7 weeks. And then after that, we open up the second section for ASL 2. So you have 2 7-week courses. A little bit about the content of those courses. So the content is going to be similar, whether it's remote or asynchronous. So typically a semester is 15 weeks in the summer or the fall. And so, I'm sorry, in the fall or the spring. And so over the summer, it's going to be more condensed and it's going to require more work in a shorter amount of time. So, at a point, if you're taking a 7-week course, it's going to be double the work for that amount of time. So I really want to stress it's important to have time management if you're taking a summer course, because you have to dedicate the appropriate amount of time to put in the work to be able to take the course. So the content is the same, but it's the time factor that's going to be different and the time allotted and the time management skills that are needed.
So because of that, because the summer semester is condensed, we only offer ASL 1 and 2 in the summer. As you get into the more advanced classes, it's just too much content to cover in a summer semester. You need the full 15-week fall or spring semester for those. We also do offer the internship for the interpreting program in the summer. So if you're coming to the end of the interpreting program, you can do your internship in the summer, but those are the only options for summer courses. Other questions?
I also had something to add. So last summer, I was teaching a 5-week course and a 6-week course. And I gave the feedback that we are not doing that again. That is too condensed, that 7 weeks is an appropriate amount of time, but going below 7 is just too much. You are moving too fast, breakneck speed.
Anybody else?
Oh, are we going to be able to see this? Because there's a lot of really great information in this. I tried my best to take notes, but you said you're going to send a lot of this information out later to us too, that was covered in this over the past hour. Or can we see this recording again, just like if we missed anything, or yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
So I will be editing the recording a little bit and posting it to our program's YouTube and our program's Facebook if you'd like to watch it again. I also will reply all to all of you guys who signed up for the info session with I think I already did this with the general program info sheet. That's like an 8 or 9 page document. There is so much information in there, but it's all the stuff we already went over. So it can be a little overwhelming when you first read through it. After listening to us for an hour, you might want to go back and look through that info sheet. And then of course, any questions, anything you guys have questions about, email me. I'll be here all summer. Me and Ricky are around all summer.
Yay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
So you had mentioned doing on-campus assignments for interpreting. For those of us that live out of state, I'm assuming that can be modified and we would just be responsible for finding something that was equivalent to what is being done there on campus in Maryland. Is that a good assumption?
Yes. So we have, when you're in the interpreting program, before you get to the end of the internship, we do what we call experiential learning, which is interpreting on campus. For our online cohort, we do remote things. So the college also offers a lot of our things remote. We actually have 5 campuses at CCBC all across Baltimore County. So often the college will do things as a remote activity as opposed to physically on this campus at this time. So if you're in one of our remote online cohorts, then all of those things that we offer for you to do will be remote. One example that we do as a part of that, every semester, we partner with the nursing program. The nursing program their students have to do a certain number of hours of simulated patient conversations. And so they set up these simulations with patients and we come in as the interpreters. So if you are in an online cohort with us, we work with the nursing program to set up like it's VRI in the hospital. Like we bring in the iPad on a little thing on our campus, like the teacher on our campus is there and you from wherever you are the remote interpreter in that situation. And then at the end of that interpreting experience, we discuss with the nursing students and you still on the iPad, like, what is it like to have the interpreter not physically there? Because that's what happens in the hospital a lot. Now, if you're on our on-site cohort, you will be asked to physically come on that day to the nursing program to do it live. And then we do a second day where you have to do it on the iPad, even if you are local, so that you get to see both worlds. When you get to the end of our program and you're in the actual internship that's outside of campus with an agency, I work with you and your local agency, wherever you are in your state, to help you find a placement. And so you'd be working physically on site in your state for your internship. Any other questions? Go ahead, Rebecca.
So if you screen for ASL courses, was there a Zoom option that's available? Because I was wondering if there's a Zoom as well as an in-person option for the screening before you go into ASL courses. Absolutely. So for the screening, you would contact me, as well as we have other deaf faculty that may do the screening. And you have either option, it's up to you if you would prefer to do a virtual option like Zoom, or if you would prefer to come in person, then we can set up an appointment and meet at one of the CCBC offices, and we can do the screening there. So it's up to the student's preference. Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
I am so excited for all of you. It really is a fantastic career. It's a fantastic community to be a part of. If you are looking at this as your major, if you're thinking about this as a future career, the best advice I can give you is start making friends and networking within the deaf community. Becoming an interpreter is not a career choice, it is a life choice. You become part of this amazing community. And it's such a blessing. It's such an amazing community to be a part of. And that's integral to your fluency in the language and your knowledge of the culture to actually really be a part of that community. So I'm excited for you. If you have other questions, please reach out. Thank you all for coming today.
Oh, I did have one more thing to add. So for the interpreter, Rachel, then Chelsea turned her camera off. There she is. So you see the two interpreters that we have today, both of them are alumnuses from CCBC. They both graduated from CCBC in our interpreter program.
Yeah, it's great seeing our alumni out there working. You both did a great job today. Thank you, interpreters.